is Holly.
Hello, this is Christy.
We are a sister duo, and together we have conversations we weren't having anywhere else. So if you've been asking yourself, is this it? Pull up a chair. Because I've actually been thinking about something. I always say I'll do certain things when I have more money, but at what point is it not just about money anymore? This is Henlet's Collective. Today's podcast is along the lines of writing out the so called bucket list, things you'll do before you kick the bucket, and why they will probably never get fulfilled or the list will just keep growing. So I think the default here is always the excuse of money. And I think that is it always about the money? I don't think that we should limit it to money. Obviously, it has an important bearing on fulfilling any bucket list. But the real question remains is what's on your bucket list? What is it worth to you? What do you need to fulfill it? There's a certain aspect to writing out your bucket list. Most people put travel the world or something so grand. I think that if we say we're going to travel the world, that's a little bit too broad of a item. So we should narrow our list down to something more reasonable and fulfilling. But in an article that I read of why we never fulfill our bucket list, there's a doctor, Jordan Grumet, and he wrote in Psychology Today that the allure of a bucket list lies in anticipation and memory, the thrill of checking off an item.
So it's good to be back on here. First of all, I've not been on for about 3 weeks, and so I've missed talking with you for sure. Do you have a bucket list?
So, well, I'm going to talk about that. No, I never filled one out. But when we were talking the other day, that's kind of what prompted the topic today. But no, I don't have a bucket list per se.
I just recently really started putting together a bucket list. I never really felt like the need to say like, oh, I have a bucket list or what have you. But there are things that I want to do in life that, yeah, it's obviously a dream. Do I ever think it's going to be fulfilled, or why do I think bucket lists generally fail? I don't know. Maybe it's just the thought of maybe it not living up to our expectations or us not experiencing it like we thought we would.
Yeah. And also, I think a lot of people write bucket lists out like a New Year's resolution. And how many of those fail? I don't ever write out a resolution. I want to lose 100 pounds. That would be a resolution. What's on the bucket list? Probably the same thing. That'll never happen, right? But yeah, so I think that it's sure we can use the money, but it really becomes about the waiting pattern. Oh, I'll do it later or when things settle down. And what are we really waiting for to fulfill a life dream that we want to do? And I don't want to just mark it off a list. I think fulfilling a bucket list, it has to mean something. You have to grow from the experience. Just going and saying, oh, I want to go do the Great Wall of China. Well, once you go, then what? What did you learn from it? And I think that's the important aspect of a bucket list or having a bucket list, not just, like I said, not just traveling the world, not just whatever people's bucket list wishes are.
Well, I think that we romanticize the idea of all these grandiose things, traveling the world, going to see exotic places, what have you, rather than the reality of it. Because what is the reality? You have to actually get there. You have to make a plan to do it, and then you have to take the time to actually do it. So just the thought of these things is romantic.
I guess I never thought about it like that because I know most people use the excuse of money, but that's just not the full extent of it. Or I have obligations here. Whatever the case may be, people don't usually fulfill it because they're just busy living their life instead of making it part of their life, if that makes sense. But a bucket list versus real life, big dreams versus everyday reality. That's, I guess, what it amounts to. And like you said, sometimes it's just maybe easier to say, well, I'll do it later, maybe someday. And I don't want it to be someday. I had told you the other day that I wanted to put something on my bucket list that means something to me. And knowing my family as I do, just like you said, yeah, when we retire. No, I'm not waiting till I retire. I'm going to be doing that within a year or two. And that may not work for
That's
you.
hard.
Yeah. And it just like I said, how much does it mean to you to fulfill an item off of that list? So that was the first thing that I ever said that I
So,
wanted to do on my bucket list.
and I get that. I think also there are, when you're living life and you're working full time and you have a lot of things going on, it's very difficult to even sometimes take 2 weeks off to go and do something. It is. I mean, I struggle finding a week out of my year to even go on vacation somewhere. And so finding the time for, especially like a really big bucket list thing like you want to do, I mean, that's going to take weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, somebody else's bucket list is not somebody else's item on that same list. But I also feel that when you when somebody has something that they are driven to do, I don't know how you were supportive, but you're like, yeah, well, maybe when we retire, we can go. And so how do you support someone physically, mentally, whatever, to help them fulfill, even though you have doubts that they may not fulfill it, or I don't know. I think a lot of it, people are afraid to fail at marking something off on their bucket list because they didn't finish it.
Possibly. I also feel like when you have a big bucket list, just like you said, you have to start small and you have to start within a reasonable budget, time, energy, whatever is for your life. I don't know. And you're right. How do you support someone? That's a good question.
Yeah, because I mean, because if somebody truly has a dream and it probably will not become reality, but you don't want to negate what their dream is because then you just look like a jerk or something. I know for me, our familial support is pretty strong. We have a pretty strong family. And but a lot of them are very practical and always disillusion you as well. So you have to be careful, I think, in how you present your dream bucket list to somebody because you're already going to fail if that person is not as they know you're going to just not do it at all. But let's say you came to me with an item on your bucket list. I don't know what anything is on your bucket list. Or if the kids came to me, I know what's on like Caitlin's bucket list, but I don't know. I mean, financially, you can't support them. Physically, you can't support them. So the only other thing left is mentally. And you don't want to be like, yeah, get out of here. You're never going to make that list. You can't say that. So how do you support somebody whose dream is just so big and
I don't like, is that, and I guess for me, is there a dream that is too big that it can't be done? You know, really, in this world. So for me, on my bucket list, I want to go on a safari one day, and I plan on making that happen. And that is just something that I'm going to plan. So is that dream too big? No. Is your dream of walking the Pacific Crest Trail? No, it's not. It's doable. It's just how how can we make that happen? I think, like, how can we achieve that fits everyone's timeline or fits everyone's budget or whatever that may be.
So now, when you say that and on your bucket list, are again, are those things that are anticipatory or and things just to do? Or what are you getting fulfilled out of? Like, what is that? What do you hope to accomplish mentally, physically? How do you grow from that experience? Is really what should be on the
That's a good. Not
because
really knows that something I've
safari
ever
just
really
sounds like
thought about,
something to do. Just sounds like a
but not
thrill of a lifetime type thing.
so not for me though. I mean, so I personally am obsessed with elephants, and elephants are my animal that I just in my heart, like I'm dying to see them in the wild in their own area, thriving and being. So that for me it's just a very personal thing.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
but that's a good question. So on a bucket list, like how does that fulfill you? Or is it just something, you know? That's a good
Exactly.
question.
Exactly. So now I think maybe are we just making them to do them or just to feel like we might? And then, of course, obviously for you, money is a big factor to get down to Africa. Screw the time because I'm sure that you could say, I'm taking this time off. You can either like it or not and then go. But I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking thousands and thousands of dollars probably for that.
Yeah. And I get that.
So
You know, but I
default
also
excuse
don't
money.
feel But I also don't feel like, again, anything on someone's bucket list is always doable if that's really what you want to do. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say, like I said, I don't have a bucket list. That was like when I had said that the other day, and I was just, yeah, I really want to add that first item to a bucket list because I know I can build up to it because I live right here where I do. And I have the time, obviously. So for me, it's just a matter of, and you were supportive and you were like, even though you said, well, maybe later, but what you're like, but just go ahead and do the research. And so I started doing research and I found out a lot of things that I think that particular item on my bucket list I can definitely grow from. One, because I'm already learning from doing research. And then two, just proving yourself to do all, you know, however long the walk would take. Three, communing with nature. So I feel like my bucket list item has a lot to offer to fulfill my soul and to grow. I could grow from that.
So is that something that you're planning on definitely doing?
Yeah, but in like 2 years, a couple years. One,
That's a
because I have
long
it.
hike.
Exactly. So that's why you got to build up your endurance. You got to train for it. Something you got to train. It's like being an elite athlete. I am no elite athlete. I am 55 years old, overweight, and out of shape. So, now again, in doing the research, they said it was going to cost anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000, which shocked the heck out of me. So there again, default excuse money
Jeez.
because that's really surprised me. I was really surprised to read that. But you're talking months of resupplying yourself and I don't know. So anyways,
So how does that make you feel though after doing all the research? Like how does that make you feel?
like I will definitely die.
Is
It's
that's
a
not negative?
dangerous bucket list item. literally, it's a dangerous bucket list item. And so I have to make sure that everything is in order just in case that does happen. On the other hand, I would not be going by myself. So I would have to go with a group of people who,
Yes, you would.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But also,
I mean, maybe like a hot tour guide would be perfect.
anyways, so no, and I have other dreams too that are kind of on my bucket list, but they're just, and I get why people don't mark stuff off their bucket list, and their list just keeps growing for all the reasons that we've already named. But does that make you also feel like a failure? Or just something that, like, well, I wrote this, like I said, you just to feel like we might do them. I don't want to be that person.
I don't know. I think that's why I hesitate again to just write anything on a bucket list, like you just because. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think that there's a way to modify a bucket list so that you can fulfill that particular item in a way that you can still grow from. Let's say you're going to Africa. Well, you could, and you do, go to the Columbus Zoo all the time.
Yeah, that's not
to see the animals, right? But it's not Africa.
Yeah.
But you come out here,
not the same.
It feels like Africa with the desert and the sand.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Just saying, a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, well, that's definitely not the same. Grew up like that. I don't need to go back. So
I don't know.
I feel like your bucket list has to mean something. And I feel like we're always waiting for like the perfect time to do things on our bucket list.
Yeah,
right?
And you can't do that.
And so if you're going to, and this is just my thoughts, if you're going to make a bucket list, have a plan on how you're going to do it.
Yeah. And I know people who, I don't know them personally. Like the research, when I was doing the research on my bucket list, and people that are doing what I want to do, they have quit their jobs. Some of them have sold their houses. Some have, what commitment will it take for you to fulfill that item?
I mean, that's pretty big.
Well, do you really need a 2-story house, or do you really want to go to a safari?
I need a house. So what is this? So doing some research, what is this called? A reverse bucket list. Have you seen that?
No, but I have heard an anti-bucket list.
What does that mean?
Maybe I didn't do any research on that, but I did see stuff all over the internet about that. I should have read an article or two, but I didn't. But
well, let me just tell you what it says. Let me just kind of read to you real quick. So it says that we live in a society that prizes ambition, celebrates goal setting, and hustle, which is very true. So we are constantly like on the road for success, for money, for fortune, for whatever that may be, because that's the American way. What we internalize from an early age is desire plus ambition plus goal setting plus doing what it takes equals a happy, successful life, right? Happiness, I think, doesn't always follow that particular pattern. And I feel like you have to find your own happiness, however that may be. So a reverse bucket list would be, bucket list is where you cross off desires before you fulfill them. So, which kind of frees you from attachment and leads to a happier overall existence. I don't really know like how to define that really. So like you would have your wants and your needs, but then that equals to happiness. I don't know.
I'm not sure, to be honest. You would probably
So I
almost
don't
need like a counselor to help you determine, like a therapist to help you determine what that might be.
yeah, maybe. So maybe like some people's bucket list would be like owning a house or yeah, maybe some of the smaller things, right? That make you happy. I'm not sure, but it's an interesting thought to like cross off things as you do it in life, maybe. Maybe that's what they're saying, like a reverse bucket list, crossing off things as you achieve them
Yeah, maybe.
instead of like, trying to pine for something that's unachievable.
Yeah, could be. Could be. Yeah, I didn't do that portion of the research
Yeah, I didn't either, obviously.
because it was more about why don't we fulfill our bucket lists? And we've already have said obviously the default excuse is money, and then of course time, energy, comfort, fear. And you already touched on time. Energy, I don't know. I Because if you're fulfilling a bucket list item, wouldn't you be energized?
I would think so.
And yeah, you're not in your home, so comfort is always going to be a factor. Being out of place, maybe in either a new place or doing something new, a new experience, comfort's a big thing.
Oh, it absolutely is. So, I mean, how do we start fulfilling? How do we really want to do?
Well, I know how I'm going to start,
How are you
but
going to start? I
uh,
mean, I know you've done the research. I know you've done all that, but
I'm going to be starting up the hill. I'm going to be starting hiking up just the little trails that are up there, because part of that trail is right up here at the train. So if I can start hiking that and getting comfortable with being, now we are going into summer, so you're going to have a snake problem, which obviously we have tons of snakes in the bush. And I know for me, the physical discomfort, and this is probably TMI, but I do have health issues that require me to have bathrooms literally like within 5 seconds. Otherwise, so that's one reason why I just don't travel, because of the different foods. I'd always be afraid of messing my stomach up, not knowing where any bathrooms might be. And then, of course, just the constant walking and just my leg giving out. Those are my fears. My physical well being is my fear. So that's
how
what
do you overcome that?
getting into shape and being prepared with the different things that you might need.
Yeah. Does it scare you? The thought of doing all that or doing all your research, doing everything, and then not being able to do it? Like what if you start and then you're like, oh man, I just can't do that.
Yeah, I would definitely be like, why did I start out on this? I would feel like a failure, but also you'd have to look at it as being brave. You had the guts to try it, and you can still try it again. No, nothing is stopping you from doing it again and again and again until maybe you do succeed. I
Yeah,
know,
I see that.
right now, it's easy for me to say that sitting in a position of sitting at home all day, not having to worry about going to a job. But also, I sit at home doing all day, like sitting at home doing, and I could be getting into shape. I could be trying to do more to fulfill my dreams instead of just putting it on paper.
So why don't you?
Because my dreams, they really are too big, and I don't know how to scale it down. So,
Yeah, and again, that's just small things that you start with, right?
well, yeah, but also if you wrote that down on a list, I feel like it would become even more depressing than what it is now, instead of just being in my head, not hitting my I wouldn't say goals. They're not goals. They're just it's this is what I would love to do.
It's a dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get a goal.
Yeah, but I'm horrible with commitment and follow through. I could plan all day, every day, and then when the moment comes, you're just like, nope, I'm good. I don't want to do it. I'm done. I'm done doing it.
I wonder what holds you back.
I think part of that is that you're just not good enough, or the fact that somebody else, you're afraid of what somebody else might think of you, or the fact that it's just like it's just easier to say someday I will do this. Someday I will get over there someday. And then pretty soon that someday is when you're 90 years old and you're in the nursing home. So,
So one day you're going to run out of time,
yeah.
and then you're going to regret some of the things that you did,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. So yeah, that's bucket lists are not just, I think if you're going to write one, don't just write it. I think
Agreed.
that you could start fulfilling it in batches, however that might look to you. Like I said, my one bucket list item, besides that I have said out loud, is sorry. But like I said, the one thing on my bucket list I know I can start fulfilling by doing it in batches, because it's very close and easy to do. Sorry. Okay, where were we before so rudely interrupted?
It's okay.
All right. So yeah, so how do you start? How do you know what to put on your list? Well, I guess I mean if it's a bucket list, you would know if it is something, how important it is to you to make it happen.
So being able to do everything all at once. I feel like if you have something on your bucket list, then you should start doing something about it. For instance, you're doing research, you're figuring out if this is something that you're going to be able to do. You have a plan to kind of get hiking, whatever that may be. So you're starting on your bucket list. And I feel like that in and of itself is a really big step, right? So for me, I say that I want to go on like this whole safari thing, but I haven't even looked at pricing or anything. So I guess it's just kind of an eye opener for me to like actually just do something about it instead of saying that I want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've had a pretty tumultuous year, to say the least. You haven't been in your job for that long. You've been looking at another job. There's always excuses,
Yeah.
and that's
Yes,
exactly
true.
what they are. So, it just how much do you want it to happen?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Now, I think that there is a way to not make you feel like you're not going to make your bucket list. And because you don't want it to come across as a New Year's resolution. Otherwise, it's just going to be something that you write down, and then you're like a year later you might look at it like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I wrote that." So it obviously didn't mean anything to you because you don't even remember what you wrote. So unless people have like their paper on their pen board, my bucket list or something like that, and then like you said, what would you do to even start fulfilling that? Whether that is the research, whether that is crossing off part of, hey, I purchased an airline ticket. Hey, I bought hiking boots. Hey, I went down to the whatever store to buy this. I don't know, whatever. Hey, I joined a group. To just little steps to ease yourself into the big one. I don't know if that is just because I only
No, I
have one.
totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I only
Me
have
too.
one item on my list, and I just wrote
Same.
that like 2 days ago because I saw it
Same.
and it spoke to me, and I was like, I could totally do this. I want to do this. This is not something I can do tomorrow, but it's a doable bucket list item that I know I can grow from.
I totally agree with that. So I also feel like we need to ask ourselves where we are instead of like where we want to go. So where are we in life that we can do those small things? Because day after day after day goes by, and then those dreams start to fade, and then a year goes by, then 2 years go by, and where are you? Life just kind of hits you.
Yeah, and so many things can happen as well within that time frame that you're not doing anything about it. So then that just puts it off longer.
Yeah.
So it's best to just start doing it, because then you're never going to do it. You're not going to get any younger, obviously, and it becomes harder and harder.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Maybe
agree.
I feel like maybe I should just leave the one thing on my bucket list. Once I finish that, then write another thing on my bucket list instead of having
I
like
don't
10 things that I will never do.
I just won't do that to myself. I just won't do that to myself. I feel like a huge bucket list seems totally unreachable. And that's why I'm also just going to keep the one thing on my list until it's done.
Yeah. But so,
But everyone's different, though.
sure, absolutely. Now, what do we think about making the list and then crossing off an item because we did fulfill it? Do we think that that is because of the adrenaline rush? Because how many people do you think have, say, traveled the world? And what constitutes traveling the world? Visiting one country, two countries, what? So I'd be interested to know what people have on their bucket list, if they even have a bucket list, and if they have fulfilled anything on their bucket list, and what do they constitute fulfilling that bucket list.
I agree. That's a good question.
So I would be highly interested to see copies of, like, people literally have it written down on a paper and posted somewhere, or if it's just something in their head, or if it's just something that they say.
I agree that it's an interesting topic to see kind of where everyone else is at in the world, or if you and I are like some kind of freaks and we only have one thing on our bucket list, and both of them are pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. I mean, they always say go big or go home, but most people just go home because you can't necessarily always go big. You have to make compromises, and I hate compromising.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's a fact of life, especially when you are poor like we are, and you have to constantly make sacrifices.
Well, not exactly poor, but
I mean, yeah, I am poor. And so that, again, I bet you on most people's lists, it has to do with something with money. Like yours is obviously money. Mine is time. Can I afford to spend 6 months away from home? Well, and money too, but not like that, I don't think. I'm not selling my house type money.
no. And you also have animals and everything else that you have to think of.
Yeah, that's why I say maybe within a year or two, then I can. But by then, when I can really do it, I'll be in shape. Well, I know, I will. I will. So I don't think it's an impossible task. It will be extremely difficult, but it's doable.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a pretty big thing, but I totally believe it's doable.
Yeah. And if you do go on safari, you're going to have to pay for me because I am poor. And if you're not poor, you can still pay for me and I can go with you.
You would go with me? All right. Well, I'll make it happen then.
Okay. So, yeah. But
We may not have
anyways,
like
I want
but that's
glamping.
okay.
I want glamping. I want the luxury hotel that the giraffes come and see you in the hotel.
Oh, wouldn't that be so cool?
I think some of it would be a little bit dangerous. I mean, those bull elephants can be quite territorial. And so I know that people obviously go on safari all the time, and all the trackers and stuff know how to deal with it, but I am not an adrenaline seeker. I
I don't
know.
think your heart could handle that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But a lot of people's bucket list item might be to go skydiving. And I know Caitlin has gone skydiving and she had a blast, but that's just adrenaline. And that's why
Yeah.
that's what I would not want for a bucket list item.
No. I mean, maybe when I was younger, but definitely not now. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Just no. But
So let's put the
a lot of people do
question.
it.
Yeah. So let's put the questions out there then. What's holding you back? Is it the default excuse money? Is it your time? Is it the waiting pattern for you? Oh, I'll do it later when things settle down. Is it because your dreams are just too big and your everyday reality is just too great to ignore, to put above anything? Do you think it's just easier to say someday? Or do you think that you just make a list just to feel like you have to? Those are the questions that we are posing. And I know some for me, obviously money, because I would be traveling if I had the money, but I also have a dog, so there's that. But I mean, I traveled. Shelby and I drove, and we had a blast driving with my dog. So we did that. We had a beautiful time up in a place that, yes, we had been there, but things change over the years. So if you can manage to, again, the dreaded word compromise, and maybe make the list a little bit smaller to make it a more doable list, I think you could still be fulfilled without having to
I
feel,
agree.
without having to make it, oh, I need to go visit the Taj Mahal. And then you stand there and take a picture. Okay, now what? Now you're just crossing off the list, you know, when
And
we,
I agree.
you
I
know,
also I feel like your bucket list should have meaning.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Righty. Well, if you like today's podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for listening, and we'll save you a chair for next time.
Bye, Kins.